at the U.S. Geological Survey and Marine Science Center right here in St. Pete. She received her BS in Physics and Secondary Education from Grove City College and her Master's in Marine Science from the College of Marine Science. Her major professor was Gary Mitchum, and for the past 9 years she has worked as a scientist with the USGS National Assessment of Coastal Change Hazards Project, investigating the impacts of hurricanes on barrier islands with the goal of understanding processes that drive coastal change and predicting how beaches will respond to future storms. And then we have Bruce, and I've shortened yours just a little bit. So he also, this is all alumni, so he went to the College of Marine Science. His research focused on reproductive physiology of bay scallops. He completed a postdoc at Rutgers University in their Shellfish laboratory, where he transitioned to disease physiology of oysters. From there, he moved to Virginia Institute of Marine Science, where he continued researching oyster diseases. And then he became the head of the aquaculture program at the University of Maine, where he also became a tenured professor. And then after 9 long years in the cold, he moved down to Florida. And he is currently the executive director of the newly formed Gulf Shellfish Institute in Port Manatee and is teaching at Ecker College.
Good stuff.
That was the short version?
Yeah. Hey, well, I'm a little older than you, so.
And then we have Beth Neely. She's a phytoplankton ecologist, currently serving as a private environmental consultant. She had her master's in examining minor light reduction impacts to shoalgrass in Tampa Bay and earned her PhD investigating benthic nutrient flux to the benthic microalgae in Florida Bay. And she also organizes the Tampa Bay Marine Science Networking Happy Hours. So if you have any questions about that, you can ask. So I think we kind of wanted a casual discussion atmosphere, so anyone should feel free to ask questions at any time. But I also have some questions written up. So I guess I'll start the conversation right off the bat about mistakes you made during grad school. So what would you do differently in your academic preparation, knowing what you know today?
Kara says choice of advisor.
No way.
Yeah. No way. So
First,
I think...
Do we need to, the mic, is that catching everyone's voice?
Yeah,
I'm very loud.
Okay.
So anyone who...
I was thinking about this earlier, and if I had known I was going to work in a place where people would assume I was a geologist, I might have tried to study a little more geology. But because I don't know, and I took 1 semester overview of the rotating through the professors, which I don't think they do that anymore. So that's probably better. Yeah, and I don't know anything about rocks or sediments, but otherwise I thought you were going to ask about other mistakes. And
all mistakes.
I had a whole thesis that didn't work out, and I started over again. That wasn't a mistake. It just happens, right? It even happens when you're not studying living things. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'll go. Then maybe we should change it from a mistake to like a life learning opportunity. Maybe is a better way of phrasing it. I think that there were a couple. I think you guys still do your fellowships, and there were scholarship opportunities. And I was discouraged early on by a couple people that I respected at the time from applying, that I wasn't, scholarship material. And I don't think you should ever let anybody tell you that, and just do it. And so I wish that I had, certainly taken advantage of that. If I had had more confidence, I think, in myself at the time and less confidence in their opinion. So just have the confidence with that. I also had a failed, first thesis, if you will, and I think I spent way too much time and effort trying to get that going. So I would say definitely, in my hindsight, if I had given it 9 months instead of 3 years to sort of germinate, then I would have been a graduate a lot sooner.
I think that's good advice. Do you have any?
Mistakes? I don't really want to call them that.
Life learning opportunities.
Okay, all right.
Learning opportunity.
Life
Yeah,
learning
yeah.
opportunities.
I think one of the most valuable things I did or was able to do was take advantage of all the work-related and research-related experiences that were here at the time that weren't necessarily directly related to my research. So, for example, I felt like I sacrificed a little bit of progress on my research, my dissertation, but I was able to take advantage of going out as a paid crew member, scientific crew member on research cruises. It had nothing to do with my research, but it was invaluable experience. So I would say take advantage of as of many of these opportunities as you can while you're here, because it's only going to broaden your work experience and what you're going to bring to an eventual employer. So that was one thing I felt was very valuable about having the opportunity of being here. There was so much going on that students could get involved in. So I guess my suggestion is get out there. Don't just hang out in your lab all day and put yourself in a cocoon. Try to get involved in as many things as you can.
Christian?
Along those lines, how do you feel that outreach opportunities contribute to your professional career?
That's certainly part of it. So you're talking about the service aspect of being affiliated with a state institution? Yeah, right.
Science Fest, the Spoonbill Bowl. There's a lot of opportunities, and I'm kind of wondering, how does that help you as a scientist?
I think it helps you because you meet people, and you meet people outside the realm of college of marine science. It can be good to know everybody in here, but you never know what connections can land you another opportunity, and especially those things like Blue Ocean, Spoonbill are institutional. Any opportunities that you may have for multidisciplinary projects through your professor collaborating with another professor at another university are great opportunities to broaden your professional network. It also, let's face it, the reason why you're doing Blue Ocean is to get to see and experience some of that where it may be above your price range as a college student. So that's never a negative.
I think it's important for getting you out and talking about science in general as well as your own research to a different audience that aren't necessarily scientists. So you have to kind of break that down sometimes. But when I think of outreach, I've been involved traditionally, other than my time at Eckerd, at state institutions like USF, where our expectations are teaching, research, and outreach, or outreach meaning to the lay public. And in my case, that was relatively easy to do because I was always working with an industry, either a fishing industry or an aquaculture industry or some sort of applied type of research that had practical application. So it made sense for me to go to those meetings and work with those individuals. And a lot of times they were actually involved in my research. So I'd go out to their site or I'd use their boat or whatever. So it's obviously, I think it's all part of the overall package. And part of our responsibility as scientists is to spread the word.
Before I came to USF, I was a high school physics teacher up in Pennsylvania for a couple of years. And when I was looking for a graduate school, I was looking for a place that had some outreach component. And I loved the Oceanography Camp for Girls, and I got involved with that. And because I liked working mostly with the K through 12 outreach, and I continue to do that at the USGS through, I go to schools, and I'm on the committee of the St. Petersburg Science Festival, and being on that committee of the Science Festival has been really rewarding. Like Mary Beth said, meeting lots of people from other agencies, from other academic institutions, from all areas of science. It's been really great working with that committee of volunteers. And I think when you talk with people who are outside of your discipline, it really helps you to understand your own research. And in the federal government, what I do, I have to make it relevant to the people who are footing the bill, the taxpayer, normal, everyday people. So if you can't explain what you do and why it's valuable to an everyday person, then it's just really good for you to have that experience. And whether it's a kindergartner or just a normal citizen, it's important for you to understand your own work in the context of the big picture of what people really care about. And they really do. They're very excited about what you do. And I think that's rewarding too when students and just community people think, oh, the work you do, that's so fascinating, because sometimes it gets a little tedious.
Yeah. Good point.
So you work for USGS and you mentioned working with industry. So when you're working with, I was wondering in particular with political figures, whether legislators or city councils, things like that, what techniques be found to be most useful when it comes to, especially perhaps more conservative members of those circles, kind of relating to them and working with them to find good solutions to different problems.
Ooh.
A timely question.
Well, I guess I'm fortunate that I don't have to do it directly.
I have to admit, I don't really have experience along those lines, so fortunately.
I've done it.
There we go.
What they want to know is sort of what Kara said, but they want it quick. They want what they call an elevator speech, so you have to be able to make your case about why your thing is important in preferably 30 seconds or less, 90 seconds. It's basically an elevator ride from the top floor of a building to the bottom floor of a building. And they want to know how specifically they can help. So what do you need from them? And what kind of jobs and money is your income or economic benefit is your project or need or necessity going to create or solve? Sometimes it's an impact thing. So that's pretty much it. There's some of them that are very interested, and then you can catch an ear for a little bit more of a meaningful conversation. But you should always assume that they're going to delegate that to their staff, and they have a lot of it, a lot of staff.
And if I could just chime in there, I think it's important for you to understand their buzzwords. And so, if their hot buttons are workforce development, economic development, you should be able to tie in what you do to furthering their mission as well, because they want to be a flag waver, and they want to be your flag waver too. So.
Yeah.
But developing those personal relationships with those council members or with those legislators goes a long way.
And adversarialness will not get you anywhere. You can stand on your soapbox and say whatever you like, but it won't bring you into the fold. So you want to be in the fold to make a difference.
Yeah, and actually, let me retract what I said before. Thinking back, of course, I've met with legislatures and governors, not necessarily conservative ones, all right? So fortunately, they were supportive of what we were doing. But again, the key is, and they're always going to be receptive to job creation and economic growth. And fortunately, I've always been in a field that helps support that, i.e. fisheries and aquaculture. We're in the process of working along those lines now with Manatee County and helping it to develop its aquaculture industry. And so far, so good. Again, that's the key, though, tie it to jobs and economic growth. And also, fortunately, with Shellfish, you can also promote the positive environmental aspects as well. So aquaculture can actually be good for the environment.
Any other questions? Yep.
Just curious, when you were in grad school, did you know at the time you wanted to go into academia or government or the private sector? Or was it just circumstances after you finished, or maybe things toward your finishing that you went that direction?
I don't know that I had a plan beyond graduate school, but actually the opportunity at the USGS opened up before I was finished. That probably wasn't Gary's choice, but with my promise to finish, I did go over there to the USGS, so that was just sort of an opportunity that was down the street, that was vacated by my graduate school roommate, who said, "You should apply for this job." And I said, "Yeah, okay, I think I will." So that was just fortunate. I'm not sure. I guess I saw myself as a research assistant in a lab or working with somebody in that capacity, so I guess I was more thinking of academia or maybe continue on for PhD, but just kind of happened that way, yeah.
I actually worked for 3 years after getting my bachelor's degree, and that helped cement the fact that, yeah, I didn't want to do this. I wanted to do research, and I realized to do research I had to get a graduate degree. So when I came here, we had a master's program. And fortunately, while I was here, the department at that time was a designated center of excellence for marine science in the state, which allowed it to develop a PhD program. And so I was able to continue on and do that. And I knew at that point I wanted to be in research, therefore I wanted to be in academia. And that was kind of the route that I took.
Wait, and Bruce is our first PhD graduate.
Can I qualify that? I was the first to defend.
Oh.
There were actually 2 of us that walked at commencement that semester, and the other person being Tom Cuba. So we're still in the area, actually, so he might be a good panel member for the future.
And who were the 2 advisors at that time?
We're both students at Norm Blake's.
Okay.
I always knew that I was going to be an oceanographer, if you will, from my youngest memory. And I knew that the pathway to that was a graduate degree. I didn't necessarily think it was a PhD, but then once I finished my master's, I was sort of like, okay, let's keep going with this. And I always knew that I wanted to be in research. It didn't necessarily have to be academia, because right next door, Florida Fish and Wildlife is a very strong research-based agency. And I just, like you, Kara, I didn't really have a plan. I wanted a job. And then I think once you get that job, you want a better paying job. And then you go, what do I have to do to get a better paying job? And then you sometimes kick the can down the road. And that ends up being a life plan, because you find out, well, in order to get that job, I do need to have this or that or the other. I'll just throw this out there. It's my opinion, but I think if you, once you graduate, if you have some opportunities. There's academia, there's government work, and then there's private work. And even within those concepts, you have the area of conservation, you have strict research, you have policy and education, and I think that there's probably a time limit. Once you've gotten into one of those things as a career, where you can make a turn from, at the end of 3 years, I'm tired of being in, policy and I want to get back into strict research. It may be difficult for you to do that because of some stovepiping and also some biases that are in that, the field, those fields. But it's certainly not out of the question. It's just more difficult, so you may want to also consider that, 3 to 5 years out of a degree may be time to make a career change or expect to keep going on the one that you've sort of started. I think that's my opinion.
So I'm kind of curious, you learn different skills in grad school, that some you learn willingly, some unwillingly. And of the ones that you maybe learned unwillingly, have you found, or which ones have you found to be later on when you started getting into the real world, but well, I'm really glad I had that?
Statistics. Statistics, GIS, I think writing and editing really are things that I, also adaptability to programs. There's always a new version of this or that coming along, or the next grade, Sigma plot. And if you sort of stop and become a dinosaur, you'll not do well.
I wish I had more statistics background. And I also wish I could speak a second language fluently. But that's another thing.
Can I ask you how that would help you? Do you deal with a lot of bilingual?
Well, let's ask these folks. I think
Commercial.
more and more. Yes, aren't we? Aren't we?
Constituents.
It's international.
Being able to collaborate internationally
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
very valuable. To be able to speak that language without barriers makes a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got colleagues in Spain. We just published a major review paper. Fortunately, they speak pretty good English, but it'd be nice to return the favor and turn that around. And I know more and more I've got colleagues at Eckerd now are developing relationships with scientists in Cuba, and their English may not be as good. So anyway, I know that's kind of a hard thing to do, but like I said, I wish I had it.
I guess I would echo Mary Beth in that I don't know that I was unwilling to learn statistics, but I certainly learned a lot more statistics than there were very few formal courses in statistics. There was a lot of learning from Gary. If you ever needed to consult anybody about statistics, maybe you asked him. He knows a lot about statistics. And writing and editing, I definitely needed a lot of help with that, and I'm very glad I learned how to do that because it's a huge part of my job now. Very valuable to learn how to communicate in writing,